All right, everybody. On today's show, Danielle Mackinnon. Danielle is one of the world's top animal psychics. She teaches people about animal intuition, and she understands that most people are skeptical about this and equally understands how connected people are with their pets. For the last 2 decades, she's helped people in over 60 countries learn animal communication, nurture their psychic abilities, and build thriving businesses. She's the creator of Soul Level Animal Communication Method and Soul Level Intuitive Coach Method for people who want to work intuitively with others. She's the best-selling author of Soul Contracts and Animal Lessons. And she's also one of my best friends. Hi, Danielle.
Hi, Jake.
Thanks for doing this.
I'm excited. Well, anytime I get to do anything with you, I think it's always going to be a yes.
Is that true?
Yes.
I had you at, when did we met years ago. When did you know that I was your yes?
When did I know? I think during the pandemic when we were talking on the phone when I was living in the Airbnb. That's when I knew you were my yes. We were talking about some esoteric stuff.
Yeah. And do you remember that you're like, you had already given your deposit for your retreat, but of course it was impacted by the pandemic, and you're like, I'm going to cancel. And I said, you can cancel, but I'm going to get you back. You can cancel. It's fine, but you're going to come back. And what happened?
Well, then we stayed on the phone talking for I don't know how long about, I don't even know what techniques we were talking about. Yeah. And then, I don't remember what, I just remember feeling this intense connection to you. And I knew it wasn't over.
Yeah, no, it had just begun. Little did either of us or your husband know.
Right.
Who now has become, I think, a Jake fan. We all have dinner. We all enjoy dinner. It's amicable.
Yes. And he definitely loves when I get a voice message from you. Oh, is that Jake?
He listens. He listens in, I've heard. Yeah.
Some of them, yeah.
And I have no filter. Anyways, this is very inside for people that are listening. Danielle, you are, let's bring it out to the people who are listening. You are an animal intuitive, an animal communicator, which, to people finding this podcast, they might think, well, that's one for the record books. But I really invite people to listen through this because you really are one of my dearest friends, but also the work that you're doing is deeply transformative in the world. And so if people are skeptical that are thinking about that or that are kind of listening to this, just hang on and listen and really feel what what we're both going to share. Danielle, so many people love and cherish their animals because they've mastered unconditional love. And we haven't. And so you helped me understand that this is why people are often so connected to their animals. When did you first start to discover this? Because you say it now, and it's like, well, duh. Like when I got it recently in I was like, oh yeah, they've mastered unconditional love. We don't unconditionally love ourselves. Therefore, we project everything into our pets because it makes sense. When was the first time that because you have a master's degree, you're a businesswoman, and you moved into this industry. When did you first recognize this?
When did I first recognize that animals had mastered unconditional love?
And that you knew that was going to be a part of your message to the world, and that it would become part of your work.
Oh, you just honed in on like the really cool part of this experience. I never planned on doing this work. When I finally embraced, I am able to communicate intuitively with animals. This is amazing. I'm going to have a job. I'm going to make a business out of this. I thought that I could use basically like ESP, this thing I had discovered I could do to control all the animals and fix them.
So wait a minute. So what's the order? I need to understand an order of operations here. So have you been psychic all your life?
I have, but I didn't know it.
Okay, which I'm sure is a shared experience among many people who might be listening. Okay, great. So that's a great place to start. And then you first recognize, how old were you when you first recognized that you can communicate intuitively with animals?
When I recognized it and knew it was real, that was, I think I was 29, 28.
And what happened at 28, 29 to cause you to recognize that?
My dog was sick. I took her to a pet psychic, and I'd been told pet psychics were not real. I'd been told that they're all shysters and con artists. And, I was always interested, but my family was like, no. So I took her to a pet psychic. The pet psychic was able to tell me she's sick because she ate corn cobs. She ate the corn cobs because she was anxious because you and your husband have been fighting about your mother.
And that was all accurate.
Mostly. We were fighting about my mother-in-law.
Okay.
But, it was cool. I was like,
psychics can't be perfect. I mean, for heaven's sakes, mother-in-law, mother, what do you want from these people that are psychics? Okay, so she tells you this, and I'm assuming it's a she. He, there we go.
No,
incorrect.
yeah.
Incorrect. Thank you for correcting me. But how did that cause you to realize that you can actually have the intuitive connections? I'm not following.
So I realized that all these times that I'm telling my mom that I know what my caterpillars are thinking, I know what my hamsters need, I know what my birds are saying, and she's telling me basically chill out, try to be normal, Danielle, be like everybody else. All those times when she was saying that to me, I was right. I was right. I knew what was going on, and she couldn't tell me differently. Once he proved to me, hey, this thing is real, and I don't even know what he said in the rest of the reading. Once that moment happened, it opened the doors for me to everything that I'd already been working with and experiencing, but had been told wasn't real. And I actually spent a lot of my childhood kind of being gaslit into believing that I'm not supposed to have feelings. I'm not supposed to have needs. I'm not supposed to be different. I'm supposed to just be there for everyone else, serve everyone else. So this was one more layer of me realizing, wait a minute. I have feelings. I am sensitive. This stuff really is going on. And this is way better than being in the corporate world. I want to do this with my life.
Interesting. So it not only helped you see how your pet saw you and your husband, but it also, a light bulb went off from I guess a creative and a business perspective too. Is this how it, like, what span of time between the session with this gentleman, the animal psychic for your dog, and like you're leaving corporate and becoming an animal communicator? It seems so wild.
So the session happened. I took a class that weekend. I started a business within about a week.
Wow.
Like, it was a really long time ago. The internet wasn't what it is today. You couldn't just like type an animal communicator. Like, I had no mentors to go by. The intuitive world wasn't online yet. So there was nothing to make me look at and go, oh, I could never do that. So I was like, I'm going to do that. So I jumped in. I kept my corporate job because the corporate job had the corporate money and the corporate security and the corporate good looks, and it took me many, many years. And I kept getting these intuitive hits from animals. I kept getting in my meditations, it's time to leave the corporate job. It's time to leave the corporate job. And I was like, oh, I'm not ready. I'm not going to do that. That's too scary. Until we bought our new house. The day we signed the papers to buy our new house, literally to move in that day, I got laid off from my corporate job.
So you were forced into the next chapter. Wow.
The universe takes control sometimes.
What did that teach you? Did it teach you anything about listening? Like, you're already now tuned into listening to animals and staying in corporate. What did that moment teach you about listening to your higher self or in your meditations?
Well, it really should have taught me to listen to my intuition. It really should have taught me to trust, even though I'm scared, when I'm getting these messages of it's okay, take this risk, etc. But I am human, so I'm still working. I'm still working on it. There's lots of times when I'm cool taking the risks because I'm getting the intuitive hit, but sometimes I run into something like where it's still scary, even though the intuition is there. And even though I trust it mostly, every once in a while I don't.
Mm-hmm. So you started being able to connect with animals and you thought that you could control the animals, which is so early days psychic intuitive. I mean, I remember when I started being able to meditate and read the future. I would do these delta meditations, which is what they use in the CIA. And I would be able to remote view and remote influence, and shit started to happen in my early 20s. And then I started to believe that I could do these things, and then it all went away. It all went away. But I have real empirical experience of I mean, people are going to think it's crazy that I'm just bringing this up randomly in a conversation, but we talked about this actually. You and I, this was our first conversation.
Yes.
Where I experienced time travel when I was 21, 22. And it was like this very simple thing. I was reading a book and doing these deep delta meditations. Deep delta is like basically bringing consciousness into your sleep, or you consciously sleep and are able to create and remote view and see things. And I started to see things. I started to time travel. Like I would go down at, anyways, I don't want to talk about the specifics because this is about you, but once I started to believe it, poof, it went away. I mean, I remember my brother who died came to me and told me to tell my mother to be more careful with the teardrop. And I had no clue what this meant. I'm in the middle of Spain doing this delta meditation that the CIA uses. I call my mother the next day and I'm like, what's up with the teardrop? She's like, are you in Maine? I said, no, because that's where I'm from. She said, I put my teardrop on the wooden butcher block last night because I was going out. It's a necklace that she has, and the teardrop has his ashes in it from when he died. And he literally came. So these things, right? Like it's empirical. It's not just like, oh, I'm so psychic. It's like it was actual. But the minute, Danielle, that I started to believe it, it went away. And so what you wanting to control animals, how did it go from you wanting to control animals to you recognizing that animals have mastered this unconditional love and it's actually about the humans that are coming to you needing this information?
So I started doing readings for people in my newly formed business.
Did you feel crazy doing readings? Like some of these, because so many psychics are so like, not crazy, but so many psychics are so not authentic. And here you have an authentic gift. Did you ever question it? Did your husband ever question it?
Oh, okay. We'll talk about that. So my husband is Kev, and
the engineer.
He is, and getting his PhD. Yeah. So he's got a different brain than mine. So he's the grounding force in the relationship, so I can be me. And so I start delving into all this, and I want to start this business and everything. And he's like, okay, sure, you can do that, But then me being the fixer, I was like, he needs to join me. He needs to be part of this. So I sign up for some abundance call. This is before Zoom. This is before people, this is a lot. This is in like 99, 2000, I don't know. So none of this technology exists. You get on the phone on like a group. Remember free conference call?
Of course.
Remember that?
Of course.
We got on free conference call in this group. And everybody in there is pretty spiritual, and he said he would come. So we're going around and everybody's saying, well, this is what I do or who I am or whatever. And it gets to him. And he goes, well, I don't believe any of this. I'm an atheist. And then that's all he said. So I really tried hard to get him to come along with me the way that I thought he should come along. He was cool with me doing whatever I was going to do. But then I thought, well, he needs to take classes. He needs to do all the things that I'm doing. He needs to delve in. No, that didn't work. So he was not on board himself until 2011.
About 10 years into you doing this. Wow.
And it took, so in addition to being intuitive with animals, I'm also a plane intuitive, a regular, or like a human intuitive. I don't know what we want to call it. I call it a plane intuitive.
Yeah.
And he, in 2011, he's a hockey fan. The Boston Bruins made it to the Stanley Cup final. I don't know how much you know about hockey. I know a lot now about hockey.
Yeah.
There's like 9 million games in the Stanley Cup final. He's really into it. So he would say, will you watch this with me? And I would sit down, but I would know who was going to win. And I didn't want to watch a game if the Bruins weren't going to win. It is not fun to watch a game when you know that your team is not going to win. So he figured out that I was leaving through this whole thing whenever the Bruins were going to win. So then we would like try to get snacks or something. He'd be like, why are you standing up? What are you doing? Why are you making that face? What's going on? And that is what made him realize this stuff is all real. There is really something to this. he still struggled to believe that he had any intuitive abilities himself. But this is he now knows.
One of the things that you said is that he, as you guys are going around, he says, I'm an atheist.
Mm-hmm.
Is believing in God a prerequisite to be able to do the type of work that you do?
I don't think so. So the way that I look at it, specifically with the animals, is we are connecting with you could call it the spirit of the animal, you could call it the energy of the animal. One of the things about animals is that they use intuition every day. So, and that's kind of hard to disprove. You know, the birds, when you see all the birds and they're all flying in formation and exactly the same time, they go this way and then they go that way. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Totally.
So, how are they doing it? They're doing it through energy. They're not all yelling at each other. Okay, time to go left. Like no one can coordinate things that well. What they're doing is they are actually connecting through intuition, which is through energy. The same thing. Have you heard about elephants? How they can know where their elephant friends are, even when their elephant friends are 500 plus miles away?
Yes.
And scientists say they're sensing the vibrations in the earth. They're doing it intuitively. So this intuition, we are more likely to believe that animals have this connection
rather than us with them.
Yeah.
Powerful. Yeah. You say that pets want to help us be better humans by misbehaving. What does this mean?
Oh, look at you. Okay. So, because they're here to teach us, they're here. This is my belief. They're here to teach us these soul lessons. They're here to help us grow and evolve and become the best people we can be. Well, you're different, Jake. You're different.
Tell me how I'm different.
Let's pretend you're a regular person.
Okay.
When things are going really, really well, most people do not wake up in the morning and go, everything is so amazing right now, I'm going to make some changes. Nobody does that. Although I think kind of you do it sometimes.
Got it. Yeah.
So what animals will do is they will misbehave. They'll do something that brings up an emotion, a feeling, a thought, a belief within us so that we are given the opportunity to deal with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So my dog, when I first started doing this, my dog was jumping on everybody when they came to the door. And it was making me feel like, well, I must be a terrible animal communicator, because I thought I should be able to mind control her through being an animal communicator to not jump up on the door. But she was purposefully doing it. And as I spoke with her about it, this is what she shared. She was purposefully doing it so that I would realize that I'm not supposed to be mind controlling, and her jumping up has nothing to do with me being a good animal communicator or a good person. So she brought this all to the forefront for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got it. Interesting. And when did you start to realize this parallel with animals misbehaving and wanting us to be better humans? Did you how?
Yes, I know.
It's just such a interesting, again, another interesting observation, but how do you get that?
So
initially,
yeah, it brings us back to that initial question, which was, what was this evolution? And the evolution was, I spent 6 months doing readings where my clients were so psyched that I was connecting with their pet and their pet was telling them stuff about their life. But then we get to the part where I was basically supposed to tell their pet what they needed to do differently. And that part really wasn't working in the readings. Like the pet, I couldn't say, you need to stop barking at the mailman, and then the pet would stop barking at the mailman. And if you think about it, nobody likes to just be told what to do. Like it doesn't feel good. So even at a one-to-one level, that doesn't feel nice. Eventually what started happening around the maybe 4 or 5 month mark of doing these readings is the animals started telling me about things about their people. Like, I'm doing this because my human has a control issue, or I'm doing this because my human has high anxiety or is in a depression, or, the animals were doing these behaviors and bringing this stuff to make that person deal.
And people must have just been like, I'm imagining it. I mean, it's so novel when you meet a client that you've never talked to before, that you don't really know much about, and then you're like, oh, so-and-so, little sergeant or little whatever the
That's
animals.
what you came up with.
What?
That's what you came up with.
I mean, I'm here in the moment. Anything could happen, Danielle. But like little Brussels, little sergeant. I don't know where these things are coming from. I'm just pulling it from the ether. But like, says that your anxiety is why he or she acts the way that, I mean, people's minds must be blown.
Well, and I didn't want to do it at first. I mean, I definitely had these crazy fights, like psychic fights with the animals. I'm not telling that person that. I'm not sharing that. I didn't want the person wants me to fix their pet, and I'm here telling them their pet says they're too anxious or they need to quit their job or whatever.
And you're right.
I know.
And then they have to deal with it. And then they're like, okay, let's pay her another X amount of dollars to tell us what else.
Yeah.
But you had a wait list forever, though, until you stopped seeing private clients like you had, right? I mean, so obviously people were finding it cathartic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it would definitely turn out to be helpful. And once people knew what they were getting into before they got in the session, which took me embracing the fact that this is what a soul level animal communication reading was, then it was fine. But in the beginning, it was very challenging because people they thought I was going to fix their pet. They didn't know how deep it was going to go.
Profound. I just want to name something because I like being authentic.
What?
You're like, what's he going to say?
I don't know.
I have been so distracted in the last 5 minutes.
By?
Thinking about my pet.
Oh, I'm like, what? Do I have something in my teeth?
No. Thinking about my pet. And I'm like, I don't want to ask her. I'm just naming this. I'm not asking you to do a reading at all. But I am willing to let it go. And so I need to just be like, I'm just not suppressing it. But I was like, I wonder what would happen if I asked if she connected with so-and-so. Again, I'm not asking and I'm not being cheeky, but I just have to say it. Otherwise I won't get through the rest of the conversation unless I name it. And I just wanted to say that. So it's just interesting because I've never talked to you and thought about my pet ever. And I don't ask you, I mean, I don't do that kind of thing, but anyways, I just wanted to name it.
So there is something kind of cool that you can do if you don't have somebody like me, is and this is what I wrote about.
Good redirect, Danielle. Good redirect for the people listening.
Well, because wouldn't it be... I can do it if you want me to do it, and I can also talk about...
Can I tell you, I mean, this is really interesting that I'm having a whole process here on the phone while I'm doing this show, but I'm scared of you being wrong. Isn't that bizarre?
I could be wrong, but I can be wrong. So where I would be wrong is I would not understand what I'm saying, or I'd misinterpret it, or I wouldn't say it the way that the animal wanted me to say it.
Can we try it?
Sure.
I feel so silly because this is not in the script or what I had planned at all. But like, I'm like, why is this? But tell me first, because people obviously are not texting you at all hours of the day, and your husband's always.
Are we keeping all this in?
Yeah, I mean, it's authentic. I mean, you're choking. I don't know if that's a way you want me to pause. We can pause. I mean, I do want to go back once you clear your throat, and I'll just set this up for people. If you are willing to dive in, we can. It's no pressure. And I want you to address what you were saying, if they're not able to text, if you don't have an animal communicator in your life, or maybe you can't afford a session, what can people do? Like, I just had this overwhelming sense about a pet that I had years ago come in. Like, what can I do if I'm not on a podcast Zoom call with you?
Well, let's do you first, and then do what can you do if you don't have me. Does that sound good?
It's great. I just want to make sure it's of a maximum value for people that are listening.
So
let's do it. So let's do exactly what you said. Oh my God, I'm so nervous. I've known you for 5 years and we've never done this.
No, we haven't. Okay, so Jake, what is the name of the animal?
Buddy.
And Buddy is
a male.
What? Buddy's passed, right?
Buddy's dead.
And what kind of animal?
Golden doodle.
No, just dog.
I'm sorry. Did I screw it up
Dog.
already?
No, it's fine. It's fine. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take a moment, and it's going to take me a little bit of extra moment because I didn't know. I didn't know
I'm
we were
sorry.
going.
Yeah, okay.
It's all good. Just give me a sec. I'm going to connect with Buddy the dog who passed what? 20 years ago? 15 years ago?
No, Buddy passed maybe 2020
Oh, recently.
or
Okay.
2019. Yeah.
And Buddy lived with you?
Buddy was my dad's dog, but he was not my dog. It's
Okay.
funny because it was my dad's dog, but I spent a lot of time with Buddy over the years.
But really, you had this big connection with him.
Huge connection with Buddy.
Okay. So I'm going to go to Buddy. So when I connect with Buddy, the first thing, I know you said he's a golden doodle. I know you said that. But the way he comes through to me is he looks like a golden retriever and like a all beauty, all feathers flying in the wind, just all about I am such a beautiful dog, like very proud and gorgeous. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if it doesn't make sense, you have to tell me because I have no idea if it doesn't.
I will tell you, no, he used to run really fast and look like he was flying.
And it's like everything's flapping in the wind, but
exactly.
in a beautiful way.
Beautiful.
So a golden retriever typically, and I know you said golden doodle, same thing for golden doodle. They typically are goofy, but this is not a goofy dog. This is a dog who comes through with this kind of there's a majesticness, there's a pride as well. You know, it's funny because normally I would be thinking he'd be goofy, but he's just not goofy. He knows who he is, and there was a calmness and a directness within him about what he wanted. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, he would sit for long periods of time outside. And when you said pride, that was very interesting because he would sit.
Because there's a stillness there
of
I know what I am doing. I know what I want. This is how I like. It's very not golden doodle or golden retriever or none of those breeds. He seems very different from those breeds. So I'm going to ask him what else he wants us to show. So what I'm doing is I'm asking him for evidence in essence, which would be things about his personality or evidence something that you experienced with him in your life. What I do see is the two of you sitting on it kind of looks like an idyllic type scene. The two of you are sitting at the top of a porch with steps going outside. The two of you kind of just sitting there together. Not a lot of movement. You're not moving either. It's just the two of you sitting together looking. I will also say that he's showing me that you are heavy at this time. Like you're heavy in your heart at this time. And so you're spending this.
That is so good. I spent time with him when I was in my grandma's basement in Maine. And when I had lost everything and I didn't know where life was going, and I would spend time with this dog.
And the two of you would be sitting there kind of just looking all out to
I would sit on the lake. There's a lake that we would go. I would go run him for hours because I'd just be crying my eyes out for like hours and hours in the winter. But then it would become summer, and I would go sit on the edge of this lake. I forgot the name of the lake, and we would just sit and look. And he wasn't like chasing things. Like there was always shit running around, but he was always just sitting there. But it was the heaviest time in my life. I think you're a real animal communicator, Dan.
And so I know we can't spend too much time here, but notice how when you would be with him, it was actually giving you fortitude. Mm-hmm. Does this make sense what I'm saying? Like you would be with him and you didn't worry about him. It's like he was there for you. That's what this stillness, this sitting in stillness thing that he keeps showing me. And so he would provide this almost like anchor for you to, it looks like during your time with him, your emotional went from down to up and he held you all the way through. Now, he didn't do it for you. He held you while you did it for you. This is what he was teaching you, is that you have it in you to do it and you have support. He also tells me that you hadn't really felt true support like that before in your life, what he gave you. This was the first time of somebody holding you like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I think that what you said also, again, I want to make this relevant for people that are listening as well, but him being there as I did my own work, what came up for me when you said that is that's also why I wasn't particularly attached when I left. Like, it wasn't like, oh, because I left from my grandma's basement to Maui. I had moved to Maui once I kind of, after 2 years of being in that basement with that dog. And I didn't feel particularly sad, or it wasn't like this big grieving thing. And I wonder if part of that is because he held the space as I was doing the work. I wasn't projecting my stuff onto him necessarily. He just was holding space. He was just there, you know?
That's what it looks like. It's like a big energetic hug, and he held you like this the whole time while you did your thing.
That's so cool. That is so fucking cool. Okay, enough about me, but I am so grateful that we did that. And I'm glad, because I kept thinking about it, and I've never had that. I mean, have I ever never asked you? I mean, I've asked you.
One time you sent me a crazy video of you. We were talking about this the other day, where you were howling at the dog, and you wanted me to tell you what the dog was thinking.
What was making the dog go crazy? I don't understand. I was just howling at it. Seemed like a normal video to send my animal psychic friend. I'm howling at the dog, and the dog's going crazy. Help me understand why.
Okay.
Anyways.
So, if you don't have a me available,
yeah.
The thing to do is to look for the place where you have the biggest emotional wave around the animal. So for you, looking at you, that you had big emotional wave come up by sitting there with him. And it doesn't have to be a negative wave. It can be a positive wave. And for you, it was actually positive. He was holding you in a way that nobody ever held you before. That's your moment. And that's where the teaching is. So if somebody doesn't have an animal communicator to go to, they just need to delve into, where are my emotions the biggest? Where are my thoughts and feelings about this animal coming up the most? So if I feel badly about myself, like I'm not a good animal communicator, or I'm not a good enough person because I can't mind control my dog into not jumping, that's right in there where the lesson is.
Got it. That's a very helpful exercise and kind of way to go about it. That's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that's important for people that are listening. Speaking of people that are listening, I'm curious what can happen on a retreat like yours. You're obviously hosting for is it the second time or the third time at Imaloa? I think it's the second time at Imaloa. Thanks, by the way. Nice to have you back. Nice to have you in the neighborhood. For those who are seeking to have a more intuitive connection to themselves and those around them, I'm curious what becomes possible for them on your retreat.
So, I was thinking about this morning, Jake. When I did the first retreat, I really build it as this is rest and rejuvenation and coming back to ourselves. And I hadn't wanted it to be this specific, like, learn animal communication retreat, but I was planning on doing some of that because there are going to be all these animals around that we wanted to connect with. And I had said I can do some readings. I gave people all these options while we were on the retreat, and they kept being like, no, let's play with animal communication more. Let's learn this part. And so we kept getting together, and, everybody didn't have to, but everybody kept choosing to. Let's do an extra thing here. Let's learn this thing there. And we would take what we were learning and playing with and apply it to the things that we were doing. So we went to the rainforest, and we had this amazing guide leading us and I had said to you guys, can you get me a really spiritual guide? And you did. You got me an amazing person. And she was really cool with us walking through the rainforest, and then all of us stopping to connect with the caterpillar who wanted to connect with us, seeing the sloth and connecting with the sloth and feeling that energy. And everybody had just learned it in, an hour prior. So it's really about exploration and rejuvenation.
Because when you connect with that caterpillar and you really learn how to do it, you're also connecting with yourself too, I imagine.
Well, you have to be connected with yourself in order to do the work with the caterpillar. The caterpillar, if you're like out of your body and distracted, the caterpillar is going to be like, I don't need to connect with you. The caterpillar did not do that with us, but you could definitely feel the difference between when other people visiting the rainforest were around us, so we couldn't just be with us. The animals behaved very differently.
What have people experienced in terms of breakthroughs or transformations on your retreat?
What have they experienced in terms of breakthroughs or transformations? What I saw a lot of people realize is that to be connected to themselves and to connect to animals was not the work that they thought it would be.
Mm.
So I teach classes in this. Here's how to connect. Here are all the steps. Here's all the things. And you can definitely delve into it like that. But so many people make things out like self connection, um, or a psychic way of being. They make it out to be this too much. They make it into too much. And then they're trying so hard and they're working so hard. I have so many students where I'm saying to them, we got to chill you out. Just take a step back. If I could bring all those students on the retreat, their abilities would skyrocket because now they're in it all rather than trying to make it all happen. It's a very different way of being.
That's profound. It really is a way of being rather than a way of doing.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are listening, have you ever thought that it's weird to love animals as much as you do? And if you're listening, what do you imagine that your life could be if you realize that deep connection is actually the gift? And it were easy, like Danielle says, it's actually easy to connect with animals psychically. Just think about that for a second. Danielle, as they're thinking about that, can you talk a little bit about what the 5-day experience is like? What are people going to gain? What are they going to learn? What are they going to experience? Tell me a little bit, or share with us a little bit about the daily flow.
The daily flow.
Which I know is funny because you actually don't plan much of the retreat. I'm giving away all your secrets, but you go day by day. But give me a daily flow about the thing that you don't plan until you get there. Go.
I know. So you're making fun of me, but I have learned that I need to be available to shift things around according to the plan that I receive intuitively. So most mornings, I think a lot of mornings we are going to do yoga if people want to, which is I actually ended up enjoying that a lot. But the most of the daily flow is we're going to do an activity and we're going to do some connecting with ourselves. Each day there's some form of that. So some of those connecting for ourselves is me teaching a thing, and then we go out and we try it and everybody talks about it and plays. Some of the activities are doing a ceremony or going through the rainforest or going down to the waterfall. One of the things that I loved about the last retreat at Imaloa was it didn't matter actually where we went. We had an opportunity to connect with the animals everywhere we were.
Even if the animals weren't supposed to be there, like the whales. You went on a boat, there wasn't supposed to be whales, and y'all went to go find whales.
And we called on the whales, and the whales loved the energy, and the whales showed up.
And shocked all of the Costa Rican team who swore that it was not whale season and that I should have disclosed this to you before you came thinking it was whale season. But, whatever. Small details.
And it shocked the guys who were on the boat driving us around thinking we weren't going to see whales and we were crazy people.
Then you found a whole family of whales.
Yeah. No, we found a mama whale and a baby whale, and then 2 male whales that were trying to get with the mama whale, but that wasn't a good idea.
I missed that part of the memo. It sounds like you had honestly, how can you not want to come on a retreat like this? Like it just sounds like it's off the rails in the best of ways, And I got this, and I hope that people get this as well, and feel free to comment on it, Dan, but this is not just about people who want to psychically connect to animals. This is really it's a retreat on deepening your intuition, isn't it?
It's a retreat on deepening your intuition. It's a retreat on deepening your sense of self. And then the other really cool thing is it is amazing to be around other people who love animals like you do. I always laugh about this, but
that's true. That is a fellowship. That is a particular fellowship there, isn't it? Yeah,
it is. We were there's some like a bug here, a bug there that shows up in Costa Rica. It's Costa Rica. But my people were the people who are all like, we got to get that bug. And can you cut? Everybody was saving the bugs and just moving them to the place they needed to be. And I've heard that that's not always the case. If a bug shows up, someone's like, no, but the bugs were awesome, actually. They were really beautiful and cool and open to us. And we're totally open to us just taking them and moving them over here.
I love it. I so appreciate the work that you do and the people that you gather. It's a really cool group of people, actually, that, I mean, I remember you had like the district attorney for the city of Cleveland or the state of Ohio. And then you have someone else who's like wanting to just talk to grasshoppers all week. And all these people are coming together in such a meaningful, I mean, it's really a fascinating, but it's not woo. It's like really grounded, and it really, I think it impacts people. So thank you for the work that you're doing, Danielle.
It is not woo. It's just cool. I mean, I'm still myself that you're talking to now there. Yeah. So everybody is still just their regular self, but it's very connecting to feel like you have camaraderie and there's others there who are going to be with you while you try out something incredible.
So if you think it might be for you, if you want more information about Danielle Mackinnon's retreat, you can go to imaloainstitute.com/Danielle. We have a new hyperlink, Danielle, so they can go to imaloainstitute.com/Danielle. And Danielle's retreat is October 5th to the 10th this year, 2023. Prices to attend start at just $3,300. So thanks for making it affordable, too, for the people. I mean, I know that's a big investment for a lot of people, but it is, I mean, you could charge much, much, much more work, much more money for the work that you do. And yeah, so prices start at $3,300. The retreat's October 5th to 10th, 2023. For more information, imaloainstitute.com/Danielle. Thank you, Danielle Mackinnon.
Thank you, Jake. It was wonderful.
And thanks for saying hi to Buddy. That was such an unexpected treat. Blown away.
We didn't know that was coming. Yeah.
We didn't know.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Goodbye.
Bye.